acknowledged or any advance in 1600. Sold.
On September 20th, Swann will inaugurate its 2007-2008 auction season with a sale of modern prints and drawings. This is a two-part sale. The first catalog is 100 fine works on paper, and in the second catalog we have 19th and 20th century prints and drawings. The first catalog of 100 fine works on paper is a group of the most interesting material, the best material actually that we've culled from what we've put together for this auction. And it's not just the best material in terms of its scarcity and value, but also material that to us is most interesting. And this is a catalog that we actually curate. It's not just your catalog that runs alphabetically from A to Z, it's a chronologically, art historically curated catalog so that no lot stands alone. Each plays off the other, and one lot leads to another in the art historical timeline, if you will. Lot number 6 is Camille Pissarro's Mère et Enfant. It is an etching and aquatint from 1882. This representation of a mother and child is one of around 200 prints that Pissarro made in his career. Pissarro is generally considered the father of Impressionism. He is the artist in the late 19th century who bridges the Barbizon school and artists like Millet and Corot, who are also represented in this catalog. And he is also the most prolific of the Impressionists in terms of printmaking. Not all were printmakers. Degas made prints, Morisot, Cassatt also made prints, but an artist like Monet didn't make any prints. It's interesting, this print, in that we have the 7th state of 8, which means basically there were 8 changes made to this plate until Pissarro determined that it was complete. In the earliest states of this, states 1 through 2, 1 through 3, it's just barely suggested, the composition. It's etched out, you have only the outlines of the mother and child. In later states, successive states, he adds aquatint, which is a tonal process to bring in shading and basically play between light and dark. And what we have here is close to the most complete version of the print. It is a scarce proof, as you see on the print itself, with his signature and title. There is an annotation that says number 1, and there are only several proofs made in this state. In the later states, this print is more complete and, to me, has more value. Now, the earlier states, there'll be fewer proofs, so technically on the market those will be more valuable, even if it's just a sketched out subject. You have maybe 1 or 2 impressions in the first and second state, whereas you have in later states 15. So the more finish there is in a print does not dictate its value. Oftentimes it's scarcity more than finish that dictates a print's value. Lot 9 is Mary Cassatt's Margot Wearing a Bonnet, number 5. This is a dry point from around 1902. Cassatt was born outside of Pittsburgh and first studied in Philadelphia at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. In the 1860s, fed up somewhat with the teachings in America and wanting more, she moved to Paris and studied there. And she was able to do this because she came from a fairly well-off family. Her father was a wealthy stockbroker. And in Paris, she met Pissarro, who was one of her first teachers. Later on, after returning to Paris in the 1870s, she befriended Degas, and that was a lifelong friendship. And it was through that friendship that Cassatt learned the art of printmaking. Degas was a great experimental printmaker and had first made prints with Pissarro. So you see the whole interconnection of these important artists and from where the works came. Like Pissarro's prints, Cassatt's are relatively scarce. she did not, for the most part, make additions. This is a print that's known in only a handful of impressions, and in fact this is the first state of two, even scarcer in the first state. That is fairly typical of Impressionist prints, whether it be prints by Pissarro, Cassatt, or Degas. They're not normally known in large editions. Another point that makes this extremely scarce is that Cassatt worked almost exclusively in dry point. That's a technique in which the image is scratched directly into the plate. It's one of the more delicate techniques, and with successive runs through the press, a dry point plate wears down fairly quickly. It's estimated maybe 40 to 50 very good impressions would come from a dry point plate before it had to be reworked. So you sense the scarcity in these images. In addition to a large number of Picasso prints in this auction, and even multiple ceramics as well, we are very lucky to be offering Lot 52, which is a unique work, a pencil drawing on paper from 1941 entitled L'Aubade. And it is a representation of a female nude, a reclining female nude, that almost seems to be in motion to me if you look at the image. It's a nude in one position and then in another position sort of turning around. In the upper right-hand corner, it's dated May 1941. It's not a sign drawing, but it is unmistakably Picasso's work, and it is documented. It's published in the Catalogue Raisonné of Picasso's drawings. This is a mid-career work by Picasso, created at the pinnacle of his career, and it shows this, this interest, this lifelong interest he had in Cubism and breaking down the simplest forms into patterns and geometric shapes. Despite the fact that Picasso was a prolific draftsman, and there are many pencil drawings and drawings in other media known by him, his prints are definitely more common because they're edition works, in editions of anywhere from 50 to 150. The drawings, being unique works, do not come on the market that often, and therefore they command higher values. This drawing is on a sheet that measures only around 8 by 10 inches. Yet when you see it in the smaller catalog illustration or even in person, it has a sort of larger than it is appearance. And I think that's testament to Picasso's greatness as a draftsman. He could get across this idea of a grandiose feeling in the smallest passages. My guess is that this is a drawing that collectors will compete for, and it's likely something that a collector will exhibit on their wall. It has a great deal of presence to me, and I can see it with a collection of Picasso's prints because it is a very linear drawing, and I think it has, it's a very strong work despite its size and relative economy of line.